Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. For today's video, I have a special breakdown. We are going to be going over the price of Bitcoin, talking a little bit about what I think is going to be playing out from here, and then we're going to be jumping into the total altcoin market cap, mapping out this fractal that we've been talking a little bit about recently, why I believe that the market cycle for altcoins is going to be so much bigger in comparison, and then we're going to ultimately be talking about XRP, how XRP is creating the exact same market cycle fractal as years past, and I wanted to talk a little bit about where I see it heading over the next few years. Now guys, if at any point you find value, please do me a favor, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. For anybody that wants to see how I'm investing over the course of this cycle, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. Now guys, as we're getting into the price of Bitcoin, we have seen in just the last couple hours, really the last hour, Bitcoin has pulled back. We got rejected as we were making an attempt at a breakout, and we're currently pulling back in the shorter time frames. Now, the same thing still stands. We're looking at the same sort of analysis as the last coverage that I made, where this to me still is just the consolidation of a potential inverse head and shoulder, and we're kind of going to be approaching our final support, which I'm going to draw in horizontal line so you guys can see. So we're looking at basically 60K, just right above that level. We're going to be looking at this holding a support before we get a reversal, because this is what I think is the most likely scenario. Although if we were to lose this support, then I would think that we could be seeing a much bigger flush to the downside. At that point, we'd be looking for a reversion all the way back down to 50K. If we come out to a weekly time frame, that would just be the top of this lower high. It would be the very top of the move that we made getting into the ETF approval, and that would be the same level being the first lower high we made in the beginning of the bear market. So that 50K level is an important level. I do think that if we were to break down from where we're at right now, that's most likely where we are going to be heading before we would find any real support. But the truth of the matter is we're still sitting above support. I do believe that the most likely scenario is this is going to end up holding. Now, a lot of people wonder, how can we have this inverse head and shoulder even though the neckline is sloping downwards like this? This is completely normal inside of an inverse head and shoulder. The only difference is this is just kind of at this sloping resistance. But I mean, if realistically this came almost into the same contact with that high, it's a close enough price point that it doesn't really matter that much. But once we do break out of this, it would give us a target of that prior all-time high. That would be the target of the inverse head and shoulder. So if you'd be looking for a target, you could go from the top all the way down to the bottom of the head, the neckline of the head, and then from the breakout point, when we would end up retesting that resistance, that would give us your target, which is pretty much flush with those prior all-time highs. So that's what I think that was kind of lining up right now. However, if we were to lose this support, we could be looking for a much bigger flush to the downside. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about this chart that we covered, just recently, because I think that this is so important for the average person to be able to visualize, conceptualize, because this is where we're going to have a much deeper understanding of the way that the normal market works. Now, we know historically speaking, Bitcoin follows 4-year cycles, but what we know is altcoins have kind of done their own sort of thing. Ethereum has followed a 4-year cycle. There might be a handful of other ones that have done so, maybe 2 or 3. But outside of that, the majority of the altcoins don't generally follow and sync up to the 4-year cycle trend as much as Bitcoin does. There are a few, but the vast majority doesn't. Now, the thing that I have personally noticed since investing into these markets is how every single cycle we seem to get a very similar type of a bull run. The only difference being in this most recent cycle, I think that the reason COVID and everything we went through in the last cycle not being nearly as powerful, not having the same type of price discovery as what we saw in 2017, a lot of that was really because of the pandemic. There was a lot of factors. Hyperinflation was going on. We printed 50% of our US dollar in that 1 year alone. There was a lot of negative things that weren't really bullish for price discovery. Now, we're getting into this new cycle where we're looking over here at the stock market, being the S&P 500. I've been talking a lot about this recently. We're looking at the stock market, getting back into price discovery. We went through this long bear market, and now we're breaking out, getting new all-time highs once more. And when we're looking out at the long-term trend of this entire market, this is the longest correction that we've seen since, basically back in the 2008 financial crisis. So when we're looking at this type of a setup, I think that the breakout coming is going to be pretty big. This was a decent type of consolidation, a reaccumulation for the stock market before we can start going up. And the way that the markets are looking, it doesn't matter what one you're looking at, whether it's gold, whether it's, the Dow Jones even, all of these are sitting into price discovery. And the big thing about gold is we've also broken from this little cup and handle formation. So I think that this is going to be a very bullish setup as we're getting into new all-time highs. gold is probably going to go all the way up to like $5,000 per ounce. I really am not going to be the least bit surprised to see that, because we're heading for the biggest commodity bull run. So in all of this combined, I think that we're kind of setting up for not only all the stock market, not only all of the commodity markets, but we're looking at crypto as a whole as an emerging asset class having probably the greatest bull run we've ever seen. And not just in crypto history, but financial markets as a whole. Because if we zoom out and come all the way down to our very first cycle back down in here, this is where we're going to get a little bit more of a deeper understanding of how the similarities line up. Because we see in the same consolidation, we followed the same events even into our 2018 bear market. The consolidation in the bottom was the same. Both of these little fake outs after retesting support were the same. And then even going into this first breakout, this is actually where I got into crypto. I started getting into crypto right over in this period in early 2016, right at the point where Ethereum started to come on scene, when Bitcoin was first starting to break out of its bear market bottom. And it was in this first leg up that really Ethereum, led all of that hype. And then this was 2017. It was a much bigger cycle than anything we had ever seen. Now, what I find very interesting about our current setup today is that our last cycle really looks a lot like that same setup where we just broken out of the prior all-time highs, retested those as new support before we got that massive new all-time high into price discovery. Now, I do believe that we are going to see another type of move in the same sort of significance. The only difference being it takes more time to move this amount of money. We're still following 4-year cycles. I mean, we can look at Bitcoin and we know that Bitcoin's following them because we can chart it. However, with that being said, we know that we're also at a different period inside of the accumulation. Adoption-wise, crypto's way more adopted than ever before. We have way more on-ramps. We have ways for institutional money to come on. There's going to be ETF approvals for certain altcoins for the first time. And so this is going to be a monumental cycle. And I think that all of the big fundamentals, all of the big things that we've looked for adoption in crypto have already happened. We've pretty much merged with TradeFi. And this is the cycle where we're going to see all of retail kind of get behind this, where we're going to see everything go into this big sort of move. And that's why when I'm looking at the charts, it just lines up so perfect. And I do think that that's an early sign that we are going to see another one of these type of a move. So when we're looking at many altcoins in the market, you would think that, ones that have been around since all the way back in these early cycles, maybe they would be showing the same similarities. Maybe they would also look the same as they did right before that big 2017 bull run. And that's why I wanted to come over and actually look at XRP and talk a little bit more in depth about what we're seeing today, because this is a really important chart to understand. Looking all the way into this first cycle, this was really the first cycle where altcoins got added to exchanges. XRP is one of the very oldest altcoins that ever existed. So coming back to 2013 when Bitcoin peaked at like $1,200 or $1,100, that is where we very first saw those altcoins. Now, we went through this very similar type of consolidation where we went through this lower high, and it was more of a triangle type consolidation. And then once all the volatility died out, we kind of just started trending sideways, accumulating before price finally broke out of that downtrending resistance, retested as new support, and that's what fueled that 2017 bull run. So when we're coming over here and looking at what we see today, it really is a lot of the same parallels. And I think that that's something we're going to see, repeated due to the fact when we look at all of our long-term history of the altcoins, this is dating all the way since the beginning. This was the top of 2013. This would have been when XRP made that lower high. This would have been when we were breaking out of new all-time highs. So right over here, this little lower high, that would have been that same move where Ethereum first started breaking out. And we actually flipped all-time highs into new all-time highs for the first time for the altcoin market cap. So when we're looking at XRP, it makes sense that if this is one of the oldest altcoins, and it makes sense that if the total altcoin market cap is also following that same parallel, it just ends up lining up so perfectly why this is also doing the exact same thing as it did before that last cycle. It looks like we're in the same type of move, kind of just that trending sideways, accumulating in the apex of this triangle before we get that first breakout. Now, I'm not saying it's going to instantly teleport like this. We could end up seeing, maybe this thing comes up, makes this breakout, and just kind of trends sideways here before we finally do get that next big move. And it ends up behaving very similar to that 2017. The way that these have coiled for so long, the amount of time that they've spent building inside of these sort of triangles, because not only was the first cycle a triangle, but this second cycle is also a triangle. And it's probably twice the amount of time, if not more than that. The date from... if we come from the very beginning of XRP to the point of it actually breaking out, it was 1,300 days. If we come over here and look at XRP from the top of its cycle to where we're at right now, you're looking at 2,300 days. So it's about 1,000 days longer in comparison, give or take however long it takes before XRP truly starts to move. But I do think that everything is lining up in those exact same sort of similarities that we saw in those early cycles. You know, it takes more money. We're looking at the total market cap of altcoins being at like $50 million or something like that, if not even less than that. So it didn't take very much money to move these sort of things a lot in price. And so when we're looking at the market being worth, you know, billions of dollars, it takes a lot more. But now we have TradeFi, guys, and that's the thing a lot of people aren't understanding. And I try and share with you guys these charts because what we're seeing is the biggest cycle in not only Bitcoin's history, but altcoins as a whole. And I do really think that it's leaning towards the same parallel of 2017 playing out, where we have this massive sort of blow off top. And I'm not saying that that's the end all do all of crypto. You know, maybe we only go into this move here where we break out, make this big move, and then our next bear market ends up just being this type of a correction before we have an even bigger move like that. I don't know what's going to happen, but the big thing to understand is as we're sitting on these prior all-time highs, as we're just starting the new move into price discovery, chances are this cycle is going to be pretty powerful. And really what we looked at in 2017, right as we started to get outside of those, that was before the market really took off. And, you know, I think that we're doing a similar type of a consolidation. It's obviously going to differ in its own way in the same ways that it has up to this point, but the similarities are all there. This chart looks exactly the same all the way through. And when we zoom out and look at XRP, we're looking at, once again, the same exact type of a thing where the charts and the similarities in structure look identical. When we're looking at these, we're not really seeing a difference in the similarities. The only difference we do see is the time, right? All of the price structure looks exactly the same, and I think that it's going to point to the same conclusion where the next move coming is going to be the big cycle. This is the reason why we've been accumulating all of our altcoins, why we've been building portfolios in the first place, because if you have exposure to good projects, ones that are going to see major adoption this cycle, this is going to be the big one where we see more money coming on chain than ever before. And I think that the charts are just perfectly telling us this exact story no matter what you're looking at. So anyways, guys, this is the video I had for you. Wanted to break things down, explain exactly what I'm seeing inside of the market. I think that XRP is primed, and this thing is going to be sending it to a absolutely massive new cycle. And so as we're getting into this next cycle, I want to make sure that you guys are prepared, aware, and understanding how big this thing is going to be. And understanding this requires you to look at the charts, getting a deeper perspective than most people aren't going to get. And I figured that today's video was going to really help you guys understand a lot of the bigger picture that I see unfolding and why we're all set to make a lot more money than ever before heading into this cycle. So guys, if you found value, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. If you guys want to see how I'm investing in my portfolio, any altcoins I'm going to be trading over this cycle, this is going to be the big one, and I'd love to have you guys a part of it. Links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. Thank you guys so much for the support, and with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.